Piers Morgan finally realizes that the UK has gone too far, this time too far, by Warren Smith.
Elizabeth Kinney, the mother of 4 who was convicted over her text messages, joins me in the studio now.
Piers Morgan is realizing that the situation in the UK is way worse than he thought. This has reached another level.
The thing with Piers Morgan too is Piers Morgan he's not exactly a conservative. He's not really a right-wing guy. He's kind of like in the center. He has a lot of like leftist views. Like he doesn't like guns, for instance. He's gotten into debates with people over this. He has had little scuffles here and there. Like one of the big ones was he had a big fight with like Ben Shapiro. And that was like kind of a big like career turn for Ben when that happened. But anyway, Piers Morgan, even though he is kind of on the left, he's a little bit more reasonable. I feel like he's kind of a little bit he's not completely psycho woke, but he's not a hardcore conservative at all, like by any means. So yeah, that's the context.
Talking about this, I was talking to my team. None of us realised that using this particular word that got you into so much trouble in a text message could ever lead to a potential prison sentence in this country.
Neither did I. It was shocking.
Piers genuinely seems shaken by this. He seems to realize that this could be the tipping point.
I'm still shocked now, if I'm honest. But obviously, I just believe that we all need to be careful with...
Well, do we? So that's an interesting question about this. Do we need to be careful, or do we need to fight back a bit about this? Is it right that you're sitting here too scared of saying that word, even in the context of talking about what happened to you, and not as a slur?
That's totally true. Like, for instance, if I want to talk about history, like history linguistics, you can't even say the N-word in reference to like something somebody said or the context of which the word was used. You can't even use it in a non-slur way, right? The intent of like how you say it doesn't matter. The word itself is so toxic that you can't even say it at all. Yeah.
Then he goes on to discuss it with his panel, and this is where it gets interesting.
And I discovered somebody had actually been arrested in my country.
Yo, is that the goat?
For using that word in a text message. She says, being beaten up by a guy.
That's my debate
having
OG
treatment
right there.
In hospital and texting somebody that she believed had been partly responsible for her getting the beating.
And this is disturbing because the context does not seem to matter to them.
There is something wrong
But if
with
it's not
them.
being used as a homophobic slur, in other words, it's not being targeted at a gay person.
Yeah.
In fact, they claim,
so like I can use the word retard like in this, which is funny. I could say retard, right? We'll use it as an example. I think there's a massive difference. There's a huge, massive difference in saying like, wow, that's retarded, right? Versus like finding a person who is developmentally disabled and then calling them it as an insult. It's the same thing with another good one is that's gay, right? Like you say, oh, that's gay. Right, but in the lingo, that doesn't necessarily refer to like. It isn't necessary. It's not. You're not using it like in a way to like attack gay people. Does that make sense? And yet people still treat it that way. In fact, some words are so crazy, like the N-word. Like I can't even say the N-word, right? But like for instance, right, if I were to say the N-word, even in like a context of like a song, say I were to sing like a rap song, right? I'm 100%. I'm 200%. If I were to sing that song, and you know what song I'm talking about, if I were to sing that song, I would be fucking in trouble. I would get banned if I were to sing that song, but it's just a song. You know what I mean? And like it's like you're singing a song that was made by a person who is black, by the way, and you can't sing it unless you're also black. Like, so like in the exercise of being not racist, you're actually being racist. It's so weird. You know, like it's such a stupid thing. And like my take on it is really what matters is the intent. The intent and the context and like which you say it is obviously important. But like we've completely thrown that out the window. Completely thrown it out the window for the sake of protecting the feelings of the most sensitive among us.
Even worse if you say that word directed to someone who is not gay.
I think that it's almost worse that he was straight, you know, because what she's doing, she's really angry in the moment. I totally get it. And she's thinking, how can I insult this man that has done this terrible thing to me? And by the way, like, you know, I hope he gets convicted too. How can I demean him? I know I'll call him gay because gay is so lower. Gay is so like, you know, anti-masculine. Exactly. And that's the whole point.
and she's demeaning them. So this is how we're going to determine whether or not we arrest people.
That was the way she. There's 1,000 other
And
ways.
see, this is even worse. Like actually using the law to arrest people for insults is ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
She could have used to describe
But she
it.
says she's not homophobic and wasn't saying it as a gay slur.
I think this is the wrong level of analysis because it's not a matter of what is the emotional severity of the word. It's you should not be arrested for words, period, regardless
Yes.
of how I feel about the words.
Exactly.
Okay, but so what's that? You want to say that
True.
people that use the N-word to describe people aren't racist? It's just their banter between their friends?
Well, no, because I think there is a
Andrew, dude. Look at his face. Hold on.
Regardless of how
Can
I
we
feel
like
about the words.
appreciate the Andrewism there?
So
Like,
what's that? You want to say that people that use the N-word to describe people aren't racist? It's just their banter between their friends?
Well, no, because I think there is a
Vincent and Rex, thank you so much for the bits. Thank you.
qualitative difference in severity of these words. I mean,
So
Mark,
race is more important than sexuality.
well, it's an interesting, arguable point.
When you go down that road of, well, yes, but this word is in another category. It's a flawed game. Don't play it.
My point
Yes,
is
exactly.
something
I
can be
agree.
a homophobic slur or
I totally agree with Warren on this
a
one.
racist slur or an anti-Semitic slur or whatever, even if a person doesn't realize that that's what they're doing.
This is similar to subconscious racism claims in critical race theory. Well, you don't even know that you're racist. That's even worse. And Pierce
Yep.
is falling into this trap. And Andrew Wilson points this out.
The fact of the
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you.
matter is like, who gives a shit? Who cares if this woman didn't care? Who cares if she was like, you know what, I am homophobic.
Thank
and I said
God.
it because I'm homophobic. That's her business, right? You can say what you want. You're supposed to, at least in free nations.
You have to reject the
Yup.
premise entirely. Otherwise, it sends you into this
100
convoluted
fucking
logical
%.
circle that you're never going to get out of.
But what I'm saying is we're normalizing a word that still accompanies harm and still kind of normalizes what we do and how we treat as a society, LGBTQI folk. And so I'm just saying,
Okay.
why don't we pick a different word that doesn't cause all
Shut up, whore.
this hullabaloo?
All right, the bigger
Yeah,
issue.
the problem is like, because they're not as fun. And the reason is
Shut
the more
up,
that you try to make these
retard.
pushbacks, these social pushbacks, and tell people what they can and can't say, it makes them want to say it more. And you know it, Mark.
Oof. So true. So true. I want to say it so bad all the time, you know?
Because when you try and forbid specific words, it's going to cause people to gravitate
That's
towards
so
that
true.
word
So
to make
true.
a point about your flawed game.
Like that's what happens. The second you start making social pushback and say, hey, this word you've been calling your friends and you guys have been joking around for years saying this stuff, you're not allowed to say it anymore because now somebody's going to get too upset about it. It literally gives them incentive to say it more.
Yeah,
when
I
I was
don't
a
know.
kid, it got very popular. And if you remember early Eminem, he used to use this word a lot. According to this logic, if you were
No,
to
it was.
recite
we can
those
watch
rap
it.
lyrics,
We'll
you could be
watch it.
charged with a crime.
If you
Epic
guys wouldn't
fucking
make
race.
a big deal out of it, we wouldn't have a big deal, right? But you
Uh-huh.
guys make the big deal out of it.
All right.
True.
Because objectively, this has just gotten out of
Crystal
hand.
Phoenix,
Police
thank you.
officers are making 12,000 arrests a year. That's 30 arrests a day over offensive posts on social media and other platforms. Thousands of people being detained and questioned.
I don't know about you guys, but I fucking love it when people from Europe, particularly from the UK, try to tell me that they have freedom of speech. When I say like, oh, you know, America is great because we have freedom of speech and you guys don't have that. They're like, what are you talking about? We have freedom of speech. And I'm like, I remember distinctly years ago, people saying, oh yeah, we have freedom of speech. Do you though? Yeah, they would never do. What? Like, it's not enshrined in any of your stuff. You don't have like a constitution of a bill of rights that tells you that you have that. You don't have an explicit like freedom of speech like that's codified in your constitution. And they go, yeah, but you know, they'd never do that.
For sending messages that, quote, cause annoyance, inconvenience, or anxiety.
This is the guy on the
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you for the bits. Didn't you just get fined X because they didn't regulate their posts?
panel. He
Good.
is trying to play the flawed game. You can see how it just does not work.
I want to start with the numbers that you just talked about because
It's a slippery slope. Once you allow the UK to dictate how products and services are done in the United States, then it sets a precedent where like the most heckler country gets to determine all of social media for everybody else. It's a bad precedent to set. You should just tell them to go fuck themselves, to be honest.
I think there is a point where we have to look at the reality of the modern world in which we live. Yes, we all want to see more convictions for rape and murder. Those things are very hard to prove, whereas communication, we all communicate. 90% of it now is online.
So the logic here is, well, because these significant crimes are difficult to prove, we should divert our attention to these minor crimes because there's more to play with.
It's right that the law steps in and says, you know what, we've had a hand in this. We're going to step in and protect you because it takes a preventative measure, much like the NHS, where it says, you know what, rather than treat you when you're sick, let's just prevent people from getting sick where we can.
Notice that word, preventative measures, where you are trying to prevent a crime before it has even occurred. But then if the crime has not occurred, what are you arresting the person for?
Why does nobody...
This is some fucking psychopath shit, dude. There's an anime for that. It's called Psychopaths.
get arrested for calling
Did they not watch like Minority Report?
Donald Trump a Nazi?
Since the assassination of Charlie Kirk and those 2 attempts on Donald Trump's life, the right has been saying, watch your rhetoric.
There's a big difference in saying
There's a big difference between saying it's a bad idea that we should use this rhetoric, and you know I do think in a lot of cases that is true, that you know it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing to do these things, right? But there's a big difference between it's not a good idea, you shouldn't do that, to you have to do that, compelled by force. Force is the determining factor here, right? In whether or not you have rights.
watch your rhetoric and arresting people for it. That's not the same thing as what we're seeing in the UK at all.
They're
not calling for their
not calling
arrest,
for
dude.
violence, but calling them words
on.
starts that dehumanization that leads to violence. So thank you for proving my
This
point.
is like
but
this is sick.
opposite sides.
This is actually sick. What you're saying.
According
I
to his
agree.
logic, using that F word is so dehumanizing it will inevitably lead to violence. Therefore, we can arrest you for it.
What you're
Yeah, but see, here's the problem with that. Who determines that, right? Who determines that? Who determines the level of which, like, you? So for example, if I were to say, well, you know, you called me a Nazi because of what I believe. What can I get you arrested now, right? And I think the problem is, and a lot of conservatives, they just don't trust them, right? They don't trust them to have the power to make that decision.
saying is that you're calling for people to be arrested for words that make you upset.
We only
Yeah.
got her side of the story. Reading the articles, it says that there was a series of abusive and homophobic messages.
He continues to
cares?
try and justify the arrest of this woman, claiming it was the right move to make.
Those were then
I
showed.
don't give a shit if you call a person like literally every fucking slur. Then you know
The friend
They
said that
weren't
she,
homophobic.
the friend that she said
They
that-
weren't
you know,
homophobic.
obviously, like there are some things that you really can't say when it kind of goes towards action, or it has like an effect on in terms of like when the feelings don't matter, when you're like basically saying like, oh, you know, I'm gonna kill you or something. That's completely different because it's a threat, right? But like just hurting someone's feelings, like
This is
why
that
would that
flawed
be?
game. Even if they were, it's still language.
If you can't be anti-Semitic against somebody who's not Jewish.
But we go back to,
But it
I think
doesn't
it's
make-
worse, because the
but
gay slur
Piers-
was made to make him seem like less of a man.
And this is the problem. The
Yeah.
moment you make a subjective feeling a crime, there's no putting it back. There's no way to stop it. And Piers tries to point this out by asking a question, well, what about Trump's emotional state when you say things about him?
Is it a
If I
slur?
believe that and I'm
Is it
making
a
it-
slur against Donald Trump?
No,
Wow.
that's my Piers. I'm the one saying no.
Why
So
not?
it's not a slur to kill somebody.
arguing-
It's not a slur.
And so this reveals the entire. This lifts the hood and reveals the entire thing. It's not about people's feelings. It's not about what's the right thing to do. It's not about if you hurt people's feelings. It's not about any sort of perceived damages you have to that person's psyche. It's really what it is. If you were to peel back everything and you were to siphon off all of the fat and get underneath there, the entire thing is just power. That's what it's about. It's just power and control. Exactly. That's all they want. They want to wield that power against you. That's it. That's all it is.
To call somebody a Nazi, but it is a slur to use the F word about somebody who's not even gay. Explain that.
No,
And he has no logical response to this. He's just
Yep.
speechless.
I can't explain what you just said because that's not the point I'm making. You've recharacterized what I said.
I'm
to
not
make-
sure
No,
what the
sir.
point is you're making.
What I'm
The difference is orange man bad. Yeah, that's all it is. There's no principle behind it. It's really just what they can do to wield power against you. That's all it is. It's what they want. And the truth is That's really all it is in the end, is are they able to force what they want onto you, or are you able to force what you want onto them? And that's the kind of scary truth of this entire thing, is our worldviews are so opposite. We have no choice but to exercise force against each other. And when I say force, I don't mean like violence. I don't mean like, you know, beating each other up in the streets or killing each other. You have to exercise the political force basically against them. You have to force them to submit to your values and your will. Otherwise they will do that to you. And that involves using literally everything that you can against them. So if they're gonna do ballot harvesting, and they're gonna do all this fucking shitty, you know, gerrymandering, shitty, cheap tactics, you have to do the same, because you're gonna lose. If you take the high road when they constantly take the low road, you're gonna lose basically. You may not mean violence, Leaf, but they do. Yes, but you know, according to our principles, we don't believe in using violence in that way. At least I don't. So for me, it's an issue of being prepared. I'm going to be prepared for when they want to enact violence on me, and then that kind of removes the limiter from me. Does that make sense? If they come at me with physical violence, then I will respond with physical violence to the maximum level, by the way. I don't really believe in a fair fight. I don't once they engage in violence, I don't believe in the fair fight. I believe in total domination. So it's kind of like, if they're gonna come at me with, I don't know, whatever, like a and this is kind of why I am very, very 2A, is because if they're gonna come at me with like a baseball bat, then I want a gun. If they're gonna come at me with a gun, then I want a bigger gun. I want a machine gun. I want anything basically that I can use against them. If they come at me with a car full of dudes, I want a rocket launcher. You know what I mean? Like, I want an RPG. And that's kind of why I'm very pro 2A. I don't believe in fair. Overwhelming force, yes. I believe in using overwhelming force against people that want to use force against you. I don't believe in, you know, in a sort of that's unfair or that's excessive. I don't really believe in that. I want to have a 100 round drum mag in a fight against people. I don't want to have to reload. I want Leaflit to have a Gundam so she can dude, me too. All women deserve a Gundam. Well, never mind. That's a bad idea. Don't do that. Just me. And maybe Rana can have one, and my mom. Yeah, Kirsha can have one too. Yeah. And Celestia. Yeah. Speaking of gerrymandering, I'm gonna watch the recent video of the SCOTUS undoing some of the, for the Dems. I might. I'll see if I have time to look into it, but yeah. Sorry, what was I saying in regards to this? Is that yes, you have to exercise power against them, because the worldview isn't compatible. So when the worldviews are somewhat compatible, like you have a like, and this is by the way, this is the biggest issue with the entire I have to be careful. This is really the issue with unmitigated diversity, is if you don't have a general foundation that like you could all agree on for society. In the case of America, that would be Christian ethics, right? If you don't have the same foundation for society, then there's no way to convince the other side like what is better, basically, because you don't even agree in the first place on anything, on even the baseline of like what should or shouldn't be. And without common ground, it's impossible, and it becomes an exercise in force at that point, right? Because there's no way you could possibly convince them. And when you have people whose culture, their worldview is so opposed, so opposite, there's nothing you can do but exercise force. And that's why it's kind of like, you know, you have to exercise political power in whatever way you can, which is why, honestly, like I totally agree. Even though in principle I'm against ballot harvesting, in principle I'm against a lot of the tactics the Dems use, you have to do it too. If they're going to make it legal, you have to do it, basically, because otherwise you're just going to lose. Basically saying like, oh, well, you know, I'm not going to do that. It's basically kind of like, imagine a scenario where there's like a samurai, and the samurai's like, I believe in honor, and I'm going to use my blade because I believe in honor, right? And then the other person goes, yeah, well, I have a gun. And then the other person goes, yes, well, it doesn't matter. I will never stoop to your level. I will always use the blade. Well, then you just die. Do you see what I mean? Now you die, and all of your, now you die. Your children and your wife are now theirs. your entire family, everything you've fought for, everything you've built up for, it now belongs to the enemy. Do you see my point? Yeah. Nobunaga knew that. Yeah, exactly. And it's just kind of unrealistic. Like, I get it. I get like the lawful good paladin route. Like, and see, do you guys see why when I was talking about lightsabers, how I told you guys I'm a gray Jedi? I'm not a Sith, and I'm not a Jedi, right? I would use whatever it took to win. If like I believed in my sense of justice, and like I have my morals and my worldview, and I need that to win, I will utilize force lightning if I have to, right? So what you're saying is segregation is good because if so, I'll allow you honorary status. Well, no, not necessarily. Okay, so I believe that diversity of thought within the same, with diversity of thought and experience within the same moral, under the same moral foundation, I think is a good thing, because then you have a lot of perspectives, and you can solve problems through different perspectives rather than a single perspective. But there is a lot of negatives to both pure homogeneity and diversity. It's a balance. It's not like, and I'm just being honest here, and like, people are probably think what I'm saying is vile, but let's be honest, there are negatives to diversity, and there are negatives to homogeneity. There are negatives and positives to both. Right, I'll give you an example, right? So like, if you had one of the issues too with this is when you strive for pure homogeneity, the issue then becomes something else, because humans are naturally tribalistic, and it's a constant fight against the human nature of tribalism, which can only really be solved through culture and religion, really. It can only be solved through morality, basically. Something higher than our base instincts as base animalistic instincts. But say you were to make a fully homogenous society, say like, okay, only white people in this country, only white people, okay? Say you were to do that, right? Now it's like, yeah, you know what? I'm a white person, but that guy's kind of Irish. It's a little Irish. I don't really like that. His nose is a little weird, right? Like, they come from the white people that have the weird nose. You know what I mean? And now it becomes that. And it's going to like continuously like be like that forever, basically, because of the tribalistic nature, right? So that's why I don't really think that pure homogeneity even solves anything. It might in the short term, but I think in the long term, it will naturally, like, it will go back to basically how it was before, where in Europe, oh, you're French, oh, you're German, oh, you're Irish, you're Welsh, whatever, fuck you. Like, it becomes like that, basically. And it's the same thing, which is why I think that the important thing is that we have a cultural cohesion. We have a cultural philosophical cohesion that has a moral foundation that we can all agree on. That's the important part, right? But you can say the same thing about the diversity too, is like too much diversity in terms of like, these people have fucking nothing to do with us. Why the fuck are they living next to me? They don't even believe in the same morals that I do. Why the fuck am I next to them? And that would be like a bad thing too, right? And again, there are positives as well, as in like, you have different perspectives and different point of views that you can bring in. It's really about nothing in life. And this is the problem I have with people, is a lot of like times people are so retarded in that they don't understand that nothing is ever like, nothing except God is basically purely good. Like, everything is always a trade-off. There's always like positives or negatives to a thing, and it's assessing the positives and negatives of a ideology, a thing, anything really, that we find like what's the best combination of things that will lead to the best results. Does that make sense? The good, the bad, and the ugly. Basically, there's a really funny there's this anime I really like. It's called Centaur's Troubles. Does anybody know Centaur's Troubles? And it has a really, really interesting part in it. It's basically, Centaur's Troubles is a anime about a world in which there are drastic differences between people. So like, one person's a centaur, one person's like, a cat girl and stuff like that, right? Like the races are so fucking different. Like, there's like snake people and like sheep people and people with angel wings and stuff. It's like a world in which everyone is so drastically different, all of the races, right? And there's a scene in Centaur's Troubles where there's a teacher, and the teacher is like teaching a class, and she's like, there's a lot of hatred between the different races of this world, and it is such a bad thing. And like, look, like there's we can only imagine a world in which everyone was the same, and there wasn't like, you know, people didn't have different wings, and people didn't have, you know, gills, and people didn't have, you know, people weren't merfolk, there weren't centaurs. Like, we can only speculate, like, but you know, imagine if we lived in a world where the only difference was like a slight difference in like hair or a slight difference in skin color, everyone would get along. And like, I remember thinking of that, and I was like, that's actually so fucking great. Like that's actually amazing. That was like in the actual thing. And that's why I say it's the same thing, right? Where if we were to like take that to the next level and say, okay, now everybody has brown skin, everyone has white skin. Now it's what kind of white skin are you? Do you have big eyes? Or are you of the big eye clan or the small eye clan? Are you of the big ear clan or the small ear clan? Do you have the freckles clan? Are you the freckles clan? And now everyone's just going to hate each other for something completely different, because it's just in human nature. The tribalism will never stop. It only stops when we are able to ascend outside of our animalistic tendencies through divine means, basically. Divine or philosophical means, whichever you want to use. But it takes a lot. Basically, like, even the most devout people have trouble with temptation, with the animalistic temptations that like naturally drive us. It's a constant battle against the animalistic and the divine. It's constantly a battle between it.